Hello, everyone. All right, so this is a thing that I think is very interesting because it kind of reflects how I feel. Obviously, I don't feel like anti woke is necessarily bad as much as it is just really um not defined enough to actually be meaningful, right? Like for me, the reason why it's so easy to like stereotype anti woke content is because it is blibber blah. Like the word means nothing. So it's sort of like how like DEI like it can be used for like things like Chick-fil-A to McDonald's, right? McDonald's sucks and Chick-fil-A rocks. But like but like the in the so the problem isn't DEI, at least not exclusively, when it can create good things and bad things, and it does it with games too. Like it's been used to fund things like FromSoft and and other Bandai Namco games, which are usually pretty good, right? um, and Capcom and all that. But then it also goes to like Concord, which fucking sucks, right? So for me, like the thing is, the problem isn't, as they say, the problem isn't going after these like minor like blemishes, which are just symptoms of a much bigger problem, but actually like the actual problem itself. Now, DEI, of course, is a thing. It only really exists in industries that have like enough population that like things like sex pests get into the industry. Is really like what DEI is a symptom of, right? DEI is a symptom of sexual predators getting involved in the gaming space, right? That's literally what it's there to like quote solve, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's not a perfect solution, but it is a symptom of a much more worse problem, right? And so when you see DEI, what you really should be looking for, right, isn't like things that come from it, but rather why was it like there in the first place, right? Like if you look at why a lot of these DEI companies, especially in the West, you see things like, oh yeah, Riot Games fucking rapes and assaults their employees. Same with Blizzard, and then like you have like with all that farting and like fucking Bill Cosby suite, which was apparently done before anyone else knew, which kind of is very fucking scary, because that means like these people knew before the Bill Cosby was convicted of that's fucking insane in my opinion. But also like of course like companies like like not just companies like Blizzard and and Riot, but also like Ubisoft and all that, and all these companies go downhill after the DEI uh and stuff. But when you think about it, like a lot of the like rapists tended to be like the most creative people, right? Which very much sucks. It's sort of like how one of the like my favorite horror movies was Jeepers Creepers, right? And as you know, Victor Salva shouldn't even been allowed to make that movie because he was already convicted for raping a baby, a literal baby. Like I'm not even talking about like a child, no, a baby. Like it was like 2 years old, fucking thing. Like not like 12 or something. Two. It was fucking disgusting. And they were giving like 6 months for it in the 80s, right? He should have been fucking butchered with a wood chipper, if you ask me. But he was allowed to make movies. And I liked some of those movies. And knowing this kind of disheartens me because like those movies should really have not been made, at least not by him, right? And yet they were. And it fucking sucks because I like them, you know? Um, and they're not like anything great. It's just like lowbrow like horror anyway. But yeah, I liked them. They were entertaining, right? And it just kind of sucks. It's sort of like the same thing with all the Dan Schneider shows, right? Dan Schneider is fucking like a disgusting creep, right? But he's like he made some of our favorite shows growing up. If you're like a millennial like me, right? Some of our favorite shows were like Drake and Josh, all that, the Amanda Show, right? iCarly, right? All of those fantastic shows, Keenan and Kel, and this guy, along with his co-writer and all that, Brian Peck, fucking were like fucking kids the whole time. One, like, I guess Dan Schneider was mainly just foot fetish bullshit, but Brian Peck literally raped Drake Bell, the guy behind Boy Meets World, and attempted, because he only got 6 months, and then went to Disney. He attempted to rape Zach and Cody. Yeah, there's a reason why you don't see them in movies anymore. And and that's why. Now, thankfully, they still have projects with with Kingdom Hearts, which is amazing, by the way. Their performances as Yuzuru and I think it's like I think Cole does Yuzuru, and I think Dylan does Roxas and Ventus, I think. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think that's Jesse McCartney. Who the fuck does? Because they both play characters in that series. I know. I'm pretty sure it's Cole that does Yuzuru, and then Dylan does someone else in the game. I'm pretty sure. But it's not. It's like Cole. The one does only in the third game because Yuzuru is brand new. But I think there's one that they played like in like Dream Drop Distance or something. I forget. But anyway, you can quote me on that. It might be like they are in different games too. Like I'm not really in a big, like, I just I just mistook Jesse McCartney for one of them, but apparently with thinking it was Roxas and Ventus. But anyway, um a lot of these guys were abused by people in Hollywood, and this is what the out like this is what the thing is. So they got in games, but and they do good, right? Like, but like that's kind of like why you don't see them anymore after they were like huge megastars, right? Like, at least with Drake and Josh, you didn't see them very much at first, but and like Josh you see a bit more because he kind of got into like some bigger movies. But Drake didn't really. Drake, what, had superhero movie or some shit, right? Very bad movie, let's face it. And then like his acting career just plummeted from there, and he's not really in anything now. But like Zach and Cody's actors, Dylan and Cole Sprouse, were in some major things now, but not in film anymore, right? And that's like kind of why they were like. There's so much creepy shit that goes on in like these children's shows, right? Which is why like I don't really like care too much if like a kid show is abandoned anymore. I'm like, man, you know, like remember like Mighty Magiswords, I think it was, like the dude like insulted anime fans and lolly fans and all that, like calling lolicons pedophiles, and then it was found to have actual CP within a week, and was thrown in prison, right? And in my opinion, like that's a lot worse, right? Now, for me, I think the problem really is putting like a single ideology to as the threat, right? It's really a lot of things. Like, first off, Mastercard is probably behind most of this. For those who actually have been into like freelance art at all, Savvy would probably be able to like tell this a lot better. Savvy's mentioned in this video. Um, but Mastercard is a fucking disgrace for like sex appeal and stuff like that in video games. Now, sometimes I don't care. Like in Silent Hill 2, like I think like that is just a grift. Like, I don't fucking care that the sex abuse victim it is less hot. I mean, she looks like an ugly chick. She still looks like a woman, and like it's just like a very depressed, very stressed woman. That's what happens like when you were like molested as a kid and just get a little chubby and let yourself go. That literally is how like a lot of women look. Like after that point, I've seen plenty of depressed women, not necessarily for that like reason, but like just depressed women in general my age, like. And yeah, you let yourself go quickly, right? Like it's like you're cute as a kid, and then like you're fucking just like abomination after a bit, right? um and that's just a problem with sex abuse in general, right? Is like a lot of people are like, oh, but they're not like, they don't look good anymore. Like I think Razor Fist has made this retarded argument plenty of times. It's not a good argument because like pedophiles first off aren't necessarily like in for the sexual attraction as much as the ease of targeting, right? Like it's not a good argument to look at sex appeal. I also think it's very creepy, right? But also, yeah, yeah, like as the victims age, they tend to have a very high stress as well, right? And it tends to make it so they don't look as good as they used to, right? Um, and so both of those are very very like cold takes on my in my opinion on that, right? Like very like dog, like just fucking don't, right? However, I do think that not all of it is wrong, right? Like obviously I don't think Concord is really like a major thing, right? I don't think anyone expected Concord or Dustborn to sell, right? um and really, I think woke is more of a like the thing people mean when they say woke is more of a movie thing anyway. Like games, it's like okay, like some of the art is uglier. I guess I don't really care. And like stuff, and like they add like pronouns for the character creator in some games. I legit couldn't care less about that. Like my thing is like if it's just adding a feature for other players, why does it affect you, right? Then like people are like, why change it? Like it doesn't mean anything to you or me. It means something to someone who like is like I guess non-binary or something, which is a very small amount of people, obviously. But if that's all it's doing is giving them positive feedback, I don't fucking care. Like, it's just, okay, someone who was probably abused as a kid, because a lot of non binary and trans people were sexually abused, um, as kids, and that's like kind of a thing, right? So I don't really mind them like having a feature to make them happy. I don't fucking care. It's a fantasy game anyway, and I can just ignore it or even like mod it to turn it off. People will say, "What about Nexus mod?" Like Nexus mods is a shitty site. When it comes to like certain customization options, it's great if you want like a big like game engine mod like the Olympus Coliseum in Kingdom Hearts 3 or the Berserker mod in Resident Evil 4. But if you want like more niche changes, you just do them like a lot of them are really easy to do anyway. Like I remember like the flag thing with Spider-Man. It was literally a texture swap anyone could do. Like just go in your game files, drag the flag onto the other flag, and there you go. You could literally do the opposite to make oops all gay flag, right? Or you could just change the flag texture as well. Maybe you want like all the flags to be like the flag for I don't know, like the flag for fucking Nazi Germany, for fuck's sake. You could do that, right? You could do it like for a communism flag. You could do it for like Argentina or Zimbabwe or Chile or something like that, Mexico, right? You can do whatever, right? It's a mod. And for me, like the real thing is like like I don't really care because I don't. You can make your own site for downloading anyway, and you can even just use Google Drive or Dropbox or Mega. I don't really see it like a problem with like, as in I don't see a problem with like that argument when you can do it. Like you can set up these spaces so easily yourself with such niche and small mods. Now, if the mod is big, I can sort of understand. Like if a Berserker style mod got banned from it, I'd probably be more pissed because then you can't just link a mega link or a torrent and do that and do it that way, right? You'd have to actually, like link a much a much more grandiose file, and that would take file share hosting, which costs a lot more money than like a 5 megabyte file thing on Mega, right? Where you can just get a free account. If it's like several gigs, you have to actually, make an account, pay, like make more than just a free account. You have to start paying, and that's where like I can understand. But if it's literally just like 5 megabytes of data, just Just like if you're gonna drag the files anyway, just do it yourself or like use Mega. That's my advice on that, right? And some of these are like obviously nothing burgers too. But yeah, I do think like like instead of just shitting up you can't mod because a single mod site blocks something. Like I don't really see the point in caring, right? You can just always just make your own things, right? And that's really my problem with Mark Kern, right? It's not even that he's making a game. It's that like because I have no problem with Eric July. I disagree with a lot with Eric July and Yellow Flash too. But their comic physically exists. Like if I wanted to, I don't. But if I wanted to, I could physically buy Isom or any of their other comics and hold it in my hand and show proof of why I think they're more moral people than Mark Kern, right? I can literally say here, I can show it to you, right? Whereas with Ember, it physically doesn't exist. The demo state hasn't been worked on in 3 years, but he's been collecting money for those 3 years to develop a thing he hasn't worked on in 3 years, which is, what we call a scam or stealing, right? That's my problem with it. I don't even disagree with most of his takes. Like, I think the idea of them censoring the costumes in Stellar Blade is bullshit. I don't think that it's as bad as he's saying, but I'm like, dog, like it's clear that they changed some things. I don't think it's like a major thing. Like, hell, like I got the PC version coming soon, and I wasn't even gonna play it on PlayStation anyway because I don't have a PlayStation 5. So I was fine like with waiting anyway and just modding it in PC anyway, right? But it's whatever, right? Um, but since it's coming to PC soon anyway, I don't really like have the energy to care. But like I said, like that's more of a why change it for me, right? Like because the artist vision was already there, right? For me, like if it's like they want to add it, they're the developers, and it also just doesn't like change. Like a good way to say it, the reason why I don't care about like the RuneScape or the Terraria one, but I do care about what they're showing right here, the Dragon Age Veilguard one, is Dragon Age Veilguard takes away some features that I would want. Namely, the ability to actually have an ass. Right? Like, I think that like having a slider, which Savvy has demonstrated by the way, having a slider to increase your breast and ass size that visually does very so little I can't even distinguish it does anything is bad, right? And so I don't care about like having the option for scars or whatever. Also, I think the idea that they must be trans scars, like that comes from a dude like talking about it. Like chest scars could just be like a sword slash or something. It also makes more sense for it to be a sword slash in the Dragon Age universe anyway. Like if someone wants to like say they're trans and that's how they like interpret it, that's fine. I don't really care. But for me, that's not even what they edited it for. It's just like, hey, look, scars are cool. Chest scars are cool. If someone might have been stabbed with like a dagger, and so they're smaller, right? And so like you can like it doesn't really like mean anything to me, right? Like it's not even really an ideology thing. It's just like, look, you can do whatever. But I do have a problem with the like exclusion of other features that takes place for it, right? That's my beef with it, right? I feel like that's a much more reasonable beef to have, which more people probably have than someone like ads would probably pretend, right? Most people probably have beef with the removal of features instead, right? Than the adding of features, right? And that's kind of the thing. Like a good way to say it, right? Um, like like he mentions the like how like the Actman's book analogy is kind of bad, which is true, right? Lives like mentions it. She sorry, but anyway, uh, Liv mentions the how the like the sorry, Liv mentions how the book ends with there was a wolf, but it also was a danger to everyone, right? Which is true. Now, to be fair, the point is of like both is that when there is an issue, no one will believe you because you're saying it too much. You're watering it down. Which, to be fair, is the same thing that with like the other two books. A lot of racism got increased after the left. So it actually does he does make the point that Liv is talking about later, because he says the boy who cried racist, the boy who cried I forget what the other one was, right? And then the boy who cried woke, right? The boy who cried racist obviously refers to 2016, when everyone was calling like Trump and everyone who disagreed with them online racist. And then when Nick Fuentes and other open Nazis invaded people's spaces, nobody believed them, right? And so that's the thing. When you demonize people who you disagree with online as racist and homophobic and all that, right? And then they aren't, when someone who actually is, right? People don't believe you. It's the same thing with like the boy who cried transphobe with J.K. Rowling, right? They were, it was initially like she said nothing really out the ordinary and people like fucking vilified her, right? But then she actually became transphobic like years later and started denying the fucking Holocaust. So but people still don't believe trans people on that issue because, as it turns out, they were vilifying her the entire time, even going as much to say that she had it in her books, which she never did, which obviously was completely false and made it so this transition was invisible to everyone. And that's why I don't like this kind of back and forth anyway, right? Like, don't overuse a word to say something it doesn't even mean. And then when the thing you're actually like against happens, no one wants to believe you because you were crying the same story so much when it wasn't true, right? That's really what it comes down to. When you're like claiming like communism is invading games, and like the game is made by like pretty capitalistic people who just have dumbass business decisions, then I don't really like, no one's gonna believe you. But like when commies actually do invade, you kind of want the word commie to mean like someone who's an authoritarian, very authoritarian, wants like all your rights taken away, no free speech kind of person. And then like you use it on like someone who's just trans, but they like guns and shit too, so like they're not against like your First and Second Amendment rights. When you do that, it ruins the meaning. So now people think, oh, okay, this is just someone you disagreed with on the internet, and then they fucking don't care. And then it turns out that that person actually is communist, and they are actually fucking like destroying your own country. No one believes you, and we all suffer. But it's really because you fucking didn't shut the fuck up when you should have, and we're mislabeling things that never should have been labeled that, really. So like really it is in Actman's favor, despite what Liv said, when you look at like the whole story again of like, especially with the 3-act series party mentioned. But that's beside the point. Like the point isn't that Actman isn't like the far more reasonable person in this debate. The point is that Actman really, is kind of denying a bit of an issue. I do think, though, that a lot of people in the anti-woke grift are, to be fair, as well. Which is my point, like, usually, right? Like, parrots, I fucking despise, right? Like, people like Aristocratic Utensil, and all that, I fucking despise them. I despise, people like, Melanie Mack, who literally have very little principles as well. Like, and here's the thing, right? They show that Melanie Mack is a gamer, right? Like that she actually was a gamer at one point. I feel like the problem I have with that is it actually kind of shows my real problem with Melanie Mack. Look at her content back then. It was so much better. She was so much happier. She actually enjoyed games, right? And now she just is an outrage machine, right? It doesn't really fit, in my opinion. She's just no longer herself anymore, which is why like the word grift really refers to, right? Like you're changing what you cover for money and stuff rather than for like a desire to make that content. Because I feel like it's pretty clear she doesn't actually want to make that content. And most people, like the same with quartering. Quartering doesn't want to make that content. It's literally like shitty fucking dog shit content. No one really likes to make that content, right? It's very mean spirited. It doesn't actually get across your opinions properly, and yeah, uh, it just like cultivates an audience of extremely mentally ill, usually children, and when they're not children, they're fucking not good people, right? Like a good way to say it, right? Like Kiwi Farms is kind of like one of those sites that like most people on there are fine, right? Like you go on like most of the threads, most people are just whatever. But then you have literal like Holocaust deniers just QAnoning it up like a thread up, right? And they're always the most pathetic bunch of the crowd, right? Everyone else has a spine on that site, but then you like criticize Hitler and like all the actual Nazis will fucking like froth at the mouth to like report you to ban you from talking on that thread. And it's kind of like, dog, like you are literally shitting up the thread by adding Nazi conspiracy theory bullshit when there isn't one. And I'm just telling you to shut the fuck up by, saying like Hitler was a soy boy who killed himself, motherfucker. Get the fuck out of here with that he's a real man bullshit. You ain't a fucking real man if you worship that piece of shit. And I ended up getting banned from a few threads just for saying that. But like they were the ones who shit the thread up first, right? And like it really just goes down to they don't have a spine, right? And that's kind of the thing. Andypants doesn't have a spine. Actman kind of does, not a big one, but he has remnants of one, I should say. He has cartilage where the bone would be. Like it functions as a spine, but it isn't one, right? So like there's that. So like my thing is, I don't really usually disagree fully with these kinds of videos, right? That's the thing, right? My main disagreement with most of these is just the focus on like like they say, this is a symptom of a problem, not the problem. I'd say the closest we would get to a problem is the MasterCard thing, because that's the one that's prevalent to like both sides of why, like in both the left and the right are really like being taken advantage of by MasterCard, because and they also have the most direct influence over everything, because they are like the ultimate, like they control the money anyway, and they are very both anti-porn and anti like sexualization of women, which makes the most sense, right? But they also like are against like a lot of like LGBT stuff as well, right? So it ends up being uh they really despise like anything that can be taken too sexual, which is why you get what's known as safe horny, right? Where like if a straight like male wouldn't like who owns MasterCard and is like a billionaire wouldn't find it sexy to him, you can get away with it. But if he can jack off to it, you don't, right? And that's really what it gets down to. And the thing is, MasterCard is mainly owned by the far right, but it is like sort of a horseshoe theory where they go with the far left as well, because extremists tend to get along more than they would like with each other, and less with like the centrist normies that most people are. And like that's kind of the thing, right? Shoe horse theory is kind of like what they call it. I call it triangle politics theory, where instead of a box, it's a pyramid, right? So the third point at the top is just a point, and then left and right, get bigger and wider. The differences become more apparent between left and right when there's less authority. So I call it conservatism, progressivism on the left and right, on the right and left, and then on top is either authoritarianism or controlism or whatever you want to call it, right? So the less government you have, the more the differences between the left and right actually matter. And the more government control you have, the less they matter. So, like, obviously, Nazis are far right and commies are far left, and monarchs and just non-Nazi fascists tend to be very center, and they all have the exact same policies, right? And they all have the exact same result as well: genocide, mass slavery, mass starvation, and all these things, all entirely because there is a central authority figure who controls everything, and you have to obey them and their iron fist. That's why, like, authoritarianism, regardless of what you call it, all have the same result, right? They all have the same ending, as Actman would say. Whereas more libertarian societies have different endings depending on which way they go, and different middles and different beginnings, right? The only difference between like authoritarian regimes is the beginning part, and it's never good in the end, and or the middle. Um, so yeah, I don't think that. I feel like the problem is really with anti woke and woke Chris is that we're not dealing with the real like problem, because I don't really care if a businessman decides to add a gay or trans character. Like I've said many times before, like Cult of the Lamb is one of my and like all that are some of my favorite games, and I'm gay myself and trans myself, right? But what I do care about is when people like basically change things. It's the same thing with like Godot, right? I do think like Redo is a good idea, right? I do think like there are some misconceptions on what happened. Um, and I don't think like people like, well, you say that the donator guy, they don't have to listen to him, and like, well, yeah, he's a donator guy. That's kind of the point, right? He's not a direct investor. He doesn't have authority over the project. If they don't want to listen to him, they don't have to. But at the same time, like, Redo is a good idea because that's kind of the point of open source software anyway. If you don't like how things are going, you fork it and you develop it yourself. That's a good idea. In fact, it also goes with my idea of why I hate Mark Kern but love Eric July and Yellow Flash 2. Mark Kern doesn't make his own games anymore, despite having the ability to. Um, Eric July and Yellow Flash 2 don't like how comics are going, so they made their own, right? So, that's like kind of the thing. Now, Mark Kern says he's making his own, but it's a scam, and that's kind of the problem, right? If he made his own game, it's like, hey, look, even if it was bad, it was like, hey, look, you made your own game, right? I don't have to buy it anyway, right? Like, I didn't buy their comics, but I support their efforts, right? I guess maybe not financially, although I have donated enough to side scrollers, maybe I have, but I'm pretty sure some of that money went to him sometimes, right? But that's the thing, right? And also that's the other thing. Me donating to side scrollers doesn't give me like authority over what Craig does, right? Or what Blabs does, or who they bring on and stuff. Now people might say, well, I said you should vet who you bring on to, and that was because one of the people they brought on like was a pedophile. like Legal Mindset is like he runs a program in East Asia where he invites young boys, not men, boys, men too, but boys as well, to get laid with underage Korean women. Because there's a fucking sex trade in there, where that's kind of like pseudo legal. And my thing is, it might be legal there, but I don't fucking appreciate that, and I don't fucking give a shit about laws when kids are fucking getting raped. That's my problem with the Legal Mindset. It has nothing to do with his politics or like his defense of like VTuber, because like, look, that's actually good stuff, right? My problem is purely that he's a fucking pedophile. And he's like basically a much like less volatile Andrew Tate. I don't like Andrew Tate, not because like, oh, he like likes hot trans women, or is kind of misogynistic. I mean, obviously those are not like good takes either. But even if he wasn't misogynistic and was just very perfectly liberal, like if he was like if he was like the perfect liberal, I still would not like fucking like that guy. You know, he is a fucking disgusting disgrace of a human being, and that's the same thing I feel for Legal Mindset. I will not shut up about that. He can try to threaten me all he wants. He has on his YouTube what he does. I do not fucking care. The evidence is on your own fucking channel, dumbass. Like, you made that channel. You could have not made it, and I wouldn't be able to say what I say, right? You made it. You have put the evidence out there that you like kids getting molested and raped. I do not fucking care about your opinion anymore. This is not a politics issue. This is a you invite kids to be raped issue. You are a fucking scumbag piece of shit. You should be put in a wood chipper and then fucking destroyed. Everything should be ground up, just like how I feel about Bryan Singer, Dan Schneider, and fucking what's his name, Harvey Weinstein, Victor Salva, and all those child raping pieces of shit. That's what I think of you, and that's what I will always think of you. I am not going to sugarcoat my opinion. You need to fucking get fucking help or go to jail or die. Get the fuck out of my face. Fuck you, right? That is my problem with you. And that will always be my problem with you. And that will be my problem with you no matter what the actions you decide to take. Unless you address your actual issues, I will not fucking care what the fuck you have to say. You are a massive disgrace to any community. Not just gaming, not just law, every community that exists. That's my words on you, okay? You do not deserve anything because of how fucking disgusting you are. But and people may, well, why don't you have like that attitude towards like Vosh? I do. Like, Vosh is a fucking like cunt. But the thing is, Vosh says things. You know, it's the same thing with like lolicons, right? Lolicons, it's not real. It's a drawing, right? Like, Vosh is a fucking creep, but his creep of like advocating or whatever isn't like physically like putting an advertisement out for a business to do it. Like, that goes beyond what even Vosh did, right? That goes beyond what Matt Walsh did. That goes near to the territory of Andrew Tate, and that is just a little too like disgusting to not be my fucking priority when it comes to who the fuck is the worst human being in any room, right? It would be like, you know, like saying like, oh, Hitler, why aren't you talking about like the axe murderer, right? Like, you know, of like 76. Well, okay, yeah, they're like the dude killed one person. This dude killed like 400,000, a million, or whatever. That's who I'm going to focus on when I like focus my attention on things, right? I'm not the news. My job isn't to cover every single story that happens. And my personal opinion, people who run these kinds of things should be extremely exposed as the focus, you know? And that's my like criticism of him. So like, you know, it doesn't matter what his opinions are because his opinions are relevant to why I hate him, right? And this is the thing, I hate Vosh for what he said too. And it's not like I disagree with Vosh on trans issues or whatever. I disagree with Vosh on the fact that he is a sex pest who, while technically legal of what he says and stuff, I guess, it disgusts me and advocates for things that I find morally abhorrent. So there you go. Now, I've criticized him before anyway. Like, I call like Matt Walsh saying the same things right-wing Vosh for a reason. But like, I'm pretty sure people are going to be like, well, why didn't you criticize Vosh when you criticize these people? And it's like, that's the thing. If I call you literally right-wing version of another person who is guilty of the same thing, I'm pretty sure that person is kind of being criticized like by proxy of me mentioning them as what I'm comparing you to, right? Like, you always say, if I call like Keffels like left wing fucking let's see, like left wing what's his name, like Gavin McGinnis, right? Because Gavin McGinnis is a sex pest and a scam artist, right? So if I call her left wing Gavin McGinnis, or trans to Gavin McGinnis or whatever, it means the same thing. Like both are sex pests who scam people. Um, it's the same fucking thing to me, you know? Uh, and that's kind of the thing. If I make a criticism and then compare another person, if there's a popular known criticism to someone, and I compare like another person I have the same criticism on to that person, that's not defending them, like the person who's at best criticized. That's using it as a contrasting to show that this other person did that, right? And it's not playing both sides either. It's using a abhorrent person to make a point that they're doing the exact same thing, so that's what they are to me, right? That's why I hate them, right? And that's kind of thing. It's sort of like libs of TikTok. I don't even hate really, right? I think she's just going about like the things the wrong way, right? Like she started with anti-trans content, really not really. It was mainly anti-pedo content, but then it spiraled politically to just be anti-trans and stuff content, which I don't like, right? I don't like that the focus has changed from anti-pedo just to anti-LGBT, right? It used to make more sense when it was the kids that protecting the kids that was the cause, and not the putting every gay person in jail whether they actually did anything or not. Like when she like goes up to like a children's museum that just has a trans like greeter, right? Like that's all she does is like wave and say hi. I don't fucking care. And she got ratioed for that, to be fair. And like no one really kind of cares about that kind of stuff. But yeah, it kind of is a bit disgusting when that's your focus and not the fact that they're like not anything like actually bad anymore, right? That's just my 2 cents on that kind of thing, right? Uh, and it's sort of like how like there was one, like maybe two trans, mass shooters in history, and like in modern history at least, like since we've like actually started giving a fuck, and everyone's like trying to say every shooter is trans, even like lying, like when the Uvalde one where they lie about like the identity of the shooter and show someone still alive in their Instagram, and the person literally goes on and debunks it themselves because they're still alive and not the shooter who did it Uvalde, and not a peep happens. That's kind of disgusting. But at the same time, like the trans shooter like shouldn't have been like defended the way they were in like the Christ church, like Christian church shooting, right, that they did, right? I forget where it was, but like and it was obvious that they were like some schizo, right? So I don't fucking care. Like the problem is that there are schizo murderers. I don't fucking care what the narrative is. They're a schizo child murderer. You know, they can be trans. They can be some far right loony. I don't fucking care. It's a schizo murderer. They're not a person anymore to me. You know what I mean? Like I'm dehumanizing a trans person because they murdered like several kids and were like are no longer a person to me. They no longer have rights to me. Right? Honestly, my biggest problem with some of these is that like the Parkland one and stuff, is that they weren't killed anyway because I don't fucking care. About rights at that point. When you commit a terrorist act that egregious, and we know it's you. You have no rights anymore to me. You don't have a right to anything but a death sentence, right? But I'm not the government, unfortunately on that issue, right? But yeah, I say unfortunately because I know a lot of people agree with me on that one, by the way. School shooters should not be allowed to avoid death penalty. It's I think a thing most people would agree with. Um, you know, that's just the thing. But yeah, so like nothing really about this video really changes my mind. Obviously, on these opinions. I've watched it, by the way. But at the same time, I don't really think I even disagree with this person. I'm gonna actually sub and like, right? because it's not really like, are is it anti woke or woke, right? It's that the person. Oh, also, to be fair, this person actually sources the things they're using, which I think is good. Like if you're going to, you know, like for me, I have the link in there. You know, you can type it out, and I'm gonna start like actually just adding these links anyway. But yeah, and many people might be thinking, well, you said like that you've told us how to cultivate our things so you don't see this content. That's because it's not healthy. Consuming a purely rage bait content, no matter who you are, is unhealthy. I don't know what to say. If that's what you consume, you need to get help, and I was giving you the help. The help is cultivate your experience so not everyone around you is mad, So you don't stay mad. Like be happy, don't be mad, right? The real problem I have with a lot of anti-woke content is even if that's not the intentional result of it, it is like a thing that happens. It is something that is caused by it by a lot of people. You know, I feel you should focus on what makes you happy and not what makes you sad, right? Like a good way to say it, right? Instead of going, I could go on and on and on, right? About how I don't really think that Callisto Protocol is a fun game, or I could go on and on and on about how I think Resident Evil 4 is an amazing game, right? Both the original and the remake. I could go on and on and on about how Kingdom Hearts 3 is actually a fun game, and that the criticisms against it were mainly from people who aren't like familiar with the series, which kind of is true, to be fair anyway. Like, save for the combat, very little of the criticism was from fans. Um, and I just could just go on and on about that. I could go on and on about how Hogwarts Legacy is a great game if you don't just play it for the story, but just the experience of going around Hogwarts and exploring it. Right? I think it's great for that. I think Cyberpunk 2077 is an amazing, you know, time now. It wasn't amazing, when it launched, but I'm not comparing the launch, right? I'm talking about what I like about the game, not how I feel about the game's launch state, right? Which, obviously was not acceptable, but hey, look, if they make it acceptable later, I don't care anymore, right? I'm not like a grudge holder, right? I could go on and on about how like Hades has an ugly Aphrodite, or I could just go on and on about how fun and amazing the gameplay is, and how great the soundtrack is, and how awesome the story is, right? And same with Hades too. I could talk about how like the goddess of Hearthfire doesn't really look like hot, or I could just go on and on about how fun the game is, and that's what it really comes down to. What is my focus here? Why am I choosing to be upset at nonsense? And when it comes to things that actually upset me, right? Like like things like where is it? Like things like Concord, right? I don't even talk about Concord because it's a piece of fucking garbage. I don't talk about Dustborn because it looks disgusting, right? Why would I talk about something that's gonna make me mad? Like to play, even. It's not good. I want to play games to be entertained, not to be put under a hex by a witch who is going to fucking slowly melt my soul away and burn me in hellfire. I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to touch those games, right? I said I think Concord is just mid. To be fair, I did, and it is just mid. But I could just play. I have Paladins in my library right now. I don't have it installed because it's been a while since I even wanted to play any of those games in general, right? I'm not a big competitive gamer anyway, you know. But if I wanted to, I could play Paladins right now, and I would probably have a fun time. I also apparently lied. I must have accidentally installed it like a couple days ago without realizing it, but I do have it installed. Okay, but anyway, I could play it literally right now. I could just boot it up and play it, right? Um, Will I? Probably not right now. I might even uninstall it because it's been like I haven't had a mood for that game, right? And that's the other thing. I play games based off my mood. If I feel like I want to play a game, I will play it, and vice versa if I don't. I love Killing Floor and Killing Floor 2. Sometimes I play them and enjoy the fuck out of them, and sometimes I just, just ignore them because, like, I can play something else that's more fun and more interesting to what I want to play. And I feel like the real issue, like, is like everyone's like, well, why don't you just play older games or play new or like whatever? And I feel like the thing is like it's content creation stuff, right? For me, I don't care about the algorithm. The algorithm, like, I'm not going to be a slave to it, right? I wish I could make it a slave to me again. That you used to be able to do that, just by making good content and just enjoying the thing you're doing. Unfortunately, that's not a thing anymore. But I'm not a person who wants to make YouTube my job. I want to have YouTube content be like my soapbox and fun time. And because of that, I don't really make content for profitability. I make content to say what I want to say. And because of that, YouTube, like, for the most part, cannot censor me. like, like unless I say certain words or like do stuff like that, like vehemently breaks the rules like a massive amount. YouTube cannot censor me, and that is one advantage I have over like a big channel, right? YouTube can't censor me because I don't really want to make money from it. Which gives me a massive advantage on saying what I want to say over others, right? Um, and yeah, like I could also, download Halo Infinite, right? I could. Do I want to? Not really. I have it in my library. It's free. It's not like I can't, Some games I actually have never played, by the way, right? Now, some of these I actually have technically played, like APB Reloaded. I just didn't play it when like on Steam. I don't even know how I have it on the Steam launcher. And Sonic Generations I bought and somehow never played. Psychonauts I never played since I bought it, even though I really should. Super Meat Boy, I don't really actually know why that's I never played. I guess, to be fair, it only goes back to 2015, maybe like before 2015 they didn't start. Yeah, same with Remix Prologue. Like some of these games I know I played before. Um, and on Steam too. But yeah, and that's kind of the thing, right? Like I don't really care if like new like ugly looking games sucks because I've got plenty of good games to play. I don't really care about the state of the games journalist industry, but because it's never been good. I feel like that's kind of the thing, right? Games journalism has really never been good. We kind of have this myth because they used to, there were like more times that we just didn't pay attention to what they were saying, like in the past, but they've never been good. And the worst has always been Kotaku, and it still is, right? In fact, Kotaku has more or less infected the other journalists with by making them even worse. Like it used to be the joke was you can't spell ignorant without IGN, ha 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 ha, and no one even paid attention to Kotaku because we knew that they were outrage bait and they were going out of business because like I said, they work by generating rage clicks. The only way to defeat them is to not talk about them. That's why I don't talk about them that much, right? I only ever talk about them to say shut up so they die, right? Don't talk about them so they can finally die, right? And I hate to say this, that's how you beat them. You don't beat them by giving them attention. You never will. That's how they make their money. You're basically giving her like Alyssa McKenty, a free paycheck every time you like Yellow Flash 2 like makes a video on her. She's laughing all the way to the bank. Same with like Smash JT and stuff. Like she's laughing all the way to the bank when they do that. Whether they agree with her or not, they're basically gay married to her. Like I said, they are like doing what she wants, effectively, right? She wants attention. You're giving her attention. Why would she stop doing the things that have you give her attention and get her paid? That's why she does it, So you're telling her to do it more when you talk about her, right? Basically, that's why I don't. I will never talk about people like that because, like, who I feel like are completely. That's the only reason they make content, because as I said, other than That's why they make content. What they say doesn't matter because they'll never like actually improve because the entire point is to get you mad, right? You're supposed to be mad, perpetually mad at Kotaku. That's what they want, right? So the best way to defeat them is to not actually pay any attention to them. So you're not just not mad at them, you're not even giving them the benefit of attention. And that's really what it comes down to. That's how you beat Kotaku, right? And you know, I've got like thousands of hours in some games and 2 in others, right? I've got thousands of hours in Warframe and well Blender as well, but that's that's Blender, that's my job, right? But then I got like, hundreds of hours in First Descendant, Black Myth Wukong, and like Resident Evil 4 remake, right? Literally have 200 hours in that. I have, just a few hours in some other games. Like Resident Evil 5, I have 100, but Resident Evil 1, I have 17, right? And what I mean by that is like I can just like show how much I've played games, how many hours I have into what, right? I feel like it's not really like a big thing to worry about, right? I play games for fun, right? And so if I don't think a thing is fun, I just stop doing it. I don't really need to give attention to things I hate because I can always just play what I like anyway, like unless it's like the Blizzard thing where they took away your ability to play it and you have to pirate it to play the old version. I see no reason to really care. Unless they're taking away my ability to do things that I already paid for, I don't fucking care what people like want to say or do, right? And that's just how I feel. So yeah. But anyway, let's watch the video. I've given you my perspective already and pretty much explained like every like opinion, like angle, whatever, like about this video and like anything about that. But let's go.
There, welcome back. Yeah, look, I decided to crawl out of my hole to talk a little about the anti-DEI grift and why you might come across like a bit of a moron if you use its existence as a defense for more progressive ideas and general complacency in the gaming space.
I think that's New Game Plus because he seems to have more health than when I was fighting him.
Before I start, don't harass anyone.
Actually, like they beat the game already.
I like the Actman, Melanie Mac, and even occasionally Andypants, Broken Clocks and whatnot. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, I watched the quote-unquote debate between Andypants and the Actman. I watched Andypants crumble.
I feel like the thing is, like, Andypants was extremely smug, and all that, and that's really what it came down to. Like, they're talking about, like, how Andypants isn't a good debater. I think Andypants and Actman are both horrendous debaters, right? But Andypants was a smug asshole, which tends to not ever work in anyone's favor in any debate in human history. Like it never really like is a benefit to be a smug asshole. That's one like major thing, right? Like so Actman really like saw this and like he just saw an easy like dub, and it was an easy dub.
Under the force of an unborn infant's,
but it was literally because Andypants was so fucking bad and all that it doesn't matter.
Breath, and I was like, is that it? Like, don't get me wrong, it made the Actman look like a genius, but if you look at what he's saying, it's not really particularly nuanced. I think that anyone that has
I think it's nuanced. I feel like it's not really like I feel like the thing is it's not really that it's not nuanced. It's that no one like legit cares really about its nuance so much as they care about like how like their games suck, which is why I don't consume that content anymore, like anti-woke stuff anyway. The reason why I don't like their content is because it's not even that they're wrong all the time. It's that the whole point is just to get you mad. It's the same reason why I don't like Kotaku. I don't talk about Kotaku, but I talk about this. But so I guess I'm a hypocrite on that, you could argue, right? But I don't really like to watch their content anymore because it just makes me upset about like nonsense. Oh, like they made this person ugly. That makes me mad, right? But then you like look at it and it's like, does it really like do anything, right? And it doesn't usually, right? And so unless it's like what they did with like ruining like like Quest, right? Where their Akira Toriyama's artwork was literally like fucking changed, and they had like a debate by the actual artists on the team, like where like they were like, who even wants this nonsense, right? And no one really asked for that. Like I don't know anyone who really cared about like the new outfit thing. Now, to be fair, I once defended it because I didn't even know that there was a new outfit. I thought I literally, because the outfit is so skin colored, my eyes went to like the sword and shield, which are like, okay, it looks like a, like, I guess they went from the starter sword in the artwork to like more in-game sword because the sword and shield look cooler. So I thought that their argument was that the sword and shield look cooler. And I was like, really? And that's not what the argument was about. I didn't even know, right? Because it made no sense to me, because it's literally skin colored. Like who why would you even do that? Like like if you're going to add clothes, sure, but like skin colored clothes, it doesn't even do the thing, because it's not like anything was showing. So now you're just adding like lines, and like there's no color to distinguish what those lines mean. So you're just adding like a line to say that there's a shirt and some pants there. But like like there's some things I don't care about, right? But this is like just changing someone's artwork. Here's the thing, right? Like the same with like Stellar Blade, right? My problem is changing someone's ideas, right? And and replacing them with your own, not adding your own, right? Not like modding your own in a game, not adding like new features in the next game, not changing things in a remake that is still has the original as easily, just as easily accessed, which is why like Resident Evil 4 and Dead Space, where I can access both games just fine. Hey, look, if I want the original Dead Space, I can still play it. Same with the remake, right? And so maybe I prefer like the changes of the remake or the change or the non-changes of the original, because it's not replacing the original artwork. It doesn't matter to me, right? But if you literally do what Blizzard did, oh, I am mad, right? Because now you're replacing something, and it's the same thing. Like what if like it's the same thing with like the Dragon Age thing, right? I don't mind like Terraria and stuff doing it, because it doesn't replace it, it adds something new. And it's a change, but it adds something new, right? uh and same with like, at least as far as I know, the RuneScape thing. I don't play RuneScape, so maybe it changes something, I don't know, like that's bad in a bad way, I don't know. But when it comes to the artwork of Dragon Age, there are changes made in some regards, right? Or Mass Effect, like Legacy Collection and stuff, right? And I don't like that. Those I don't like. A legendary can like the Legendary Trilogy Edition or whatever. It changed a lot of things, and I don't like those kinds of things. Now, to be fair, I think I can just purchase them individually just fine, just like I can do with Dead Space remake. But the thing is, like the difference is Dead Space remake is a full on remake. Where if I recall correctly, like it's supposed to be a remaster. They just literally like change the camera angle on cutscenes and stuff, but it's the same game. It's not a. It's more of a port where they change things, and that, I guess that's like what I really mean. Like it's supposed to be the same game, but it's not, right? If it's a remake, it's not no longer really supposed to be the same game, right? It's supposed to be a new like interpretation of it, right? So for me, when it's a new interpretation, I'm fine with like changes here and there. As long as they kind of respect the original vision, at least, I'm fine. But like with Dragon's Quest, it's more of a port. And also like the artwork changed isn't like it's not like in and it's not like in-game artwork where like you could argue they changed it inside the game only, right? Like where like the thing that they touch, they also have it as the concept art, I guess, is like a really big thing. So like the concept art is just the exact same picture, but like with a different like outfit, I guess. And maybe I'm complaining about innocuous things. Like I said, these things are innocuous, and sure, it's a nitpick. And I'm not even really a big Dragon Age fan, so maybe that's like another thing, right? But I like, my thing is, like, I can understand people getting mad at certain things and not at others, right? Um, and I can understand like the reverse, people getting mad at things I don't care about, and vice versa, right? But my thing is really, like, if all you're doing is getting mad at a thing and not really ever like getting excited for other things, you're not really doing things healthy. You need to figure out a way to change that, right? And soon, right? And so this is why, like I say, if you're just no game, you don't like any games, make your own, you know, or just don't like play games anymore. If that, or just only play old games, right? Those are three solutions that make you happy, that don't require this stuff, like this getting mad at everything thing. And this is how I feel.
Any real experience in debating would turn the Actman's arguments inside out. But what made it super interesting was that the guy walks out of the debate. Andypants just hands him a free win, gifts him a bonus with copyright claims and all sorts of weird behavior, and somehow, the Actman manages to clutch defeat from the jaws of victory. So afterwards, the Actman...
I do wonder, though, why is all the Black Myth Wukong footage on Chapter 1? It looked like they beat the game. At least I don't remember Wandering White having as much health as that looked like. I mean, maybe I'm like seeing something, and I just actually like did more damage because I was more aggressive in my playthrough. Maybe that's what it was, but that health looked like it was going by a much smaller smidgen than I remember when I played it. Because they did a smash attack, right? And to be fair, it could just be a one focus smash attack. I think I had like 2 focus at that point, and I could just do like a better smash, maybe. I don't know.
Made his Everything is Woke video, and then he decided to take a...
Like, for me, I play like extremely loose and aggressively in like this game, right? Because I feel like that's how, like, Monkey, I'm supposed to be like fast and loose and not giving a fuck. I'm like a prankster. So that's kind of how I play, right? Even like, not like I'm supposed to, as in that's the only way to play, but more like that's how, like, I want to feel like I'm the Wukong, right? So I'm playing like, what if I was Wukong, right? In my mind, right? And that's how I play that game. I don't play every game like that, and I don't really role play every game. I have to get into the character too, obviously, but that's just how I play that game.
Victory lap.
Very loose and aggressive. And so, maybe that's another thing. Like, maybe I'm just going for more aggressive builds or something. But I don't know if they're in like a later chapter yet or not.
And invite more people to discuss the topic of work.
Which it doesn't matter either way. It's just I'm not seeing any like later game footage.
To quote, if any YouTubers want to have a discussion and or debate with me on wokeness in video games, feel free to DM me or reply to this tweet. I'm still very interested in this subject, and I love talking about all facets of gaming, politics included. End quote. In the comments you can...
Yeah, I don't really like see like the problem with that one, but we'll see.
People suggesting Asmongold, the quartering volunteered.
Okay, Asmongold is probably the only one I would put up. The quartering, yeah, like V maybe. I don't really think V would be
V or lack of entertainment, Madam Savvy, and I'll just say that...
Okay, Madam Savvy, yes. Madam Savvy would be...
Some of my research for Sweet Baby Inc.
Like,
comes from...
Madam Savvy, I actually would like to see debate. Like, Madam Savvy and maybe Asmongold. Those other, like, I don't think they're genuine, right?
From her Twitter account, so thanks for that. But she says...
It's not just that they're not genuine, it's really like... Dog, like I don't even see V, like he just goons 2 trailers, not even playing. Like, I talked about like the first Descendant thing, right? He's if he's like talking about like getting the credit card ready, I'm like, dog, like just farm her like a real gamer. You can like give him money in other ways after. That's how I do it, right? Like I'm gonna be like the fucking, like, if I want something, I want to farm that
something
shit,
pretty important here.
I'd be like, I am the blade that is the fucking your pussy or something. Like I can't do the Virgil thing right now, unfortunately. But yeah.
To quote, I don't like the W word. It lacks meaning and is confusing, non-specific.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Wokeness really doesn't mean anything anymore, which is really why like the boy who cried woke will have the ending that it does, and this is why the boy who cried racist had the ending that it does, right? So you like I don't really think
But
Andy Pants could have made a retort to it, not just because Andy Pants is stupid, because he is, but that's not the real reason. The real reason is that like the actual retort wouldn't have worked as well as this person thinks, because like he even says there was a wolf and and everyone dies, right? But the reason why everyone dies is because no one believed him, because he was crying it for years and years and years when there wasn't one. So when the actual issue showed up, no one cared. That's like why I agree with Savvy. Like, stop using the word woke. Actually criticize the game for what's in it, and maybe some like company critiques for what's out of it. But criticize the game and the people behind it, like also both separately too, as well. To be fair, and like as in like some people just don't care. Like it's capitalism, baby. Some people just want a good product, some people don't. So criticize what's in the game as one video, and maybe if you want to criticize the team about who made it in another, and then like keep these two reviews separate, I would say, but like keep them like linked in the discussion, so if anyone wants to see like what's behind the company too, right? I feel like that would be a good solution to that too, right? But the other thing is, right, um like first, when you're criticizing the game, like focus on the issues rather than this word, right? This word isn't gonna solve everything. If woke is in the game, it doesn't matter. If woke isn't in the game, it doesn't matter. Because as people have said, right, depending on what you mean by it, right, wokeness could mean like just general progressive values. And general progressive values, like there's no way to wokeify Silent Hill 2 because it's already woke, right? But, and to be fair, that's a horrible comparison anyway. Everyone complaining about that game for wokeness or whatever is kind of a moron. But there are games where like it's not moronic, right? Like like it's not just Dustborn and Concord. It's also Star Wars Outlaws and all that, right? But people are focusing on things that really are nitpicks and not the real problems. Like I haven't even heard much about the with Dustborn. It's very fine because that's all it is. It's literally like a. It feels like it was made by a right winger to make fun of the left more than it feels like genuine left wing content. But then you also have like Star Wars Outlaws, right? The fact that she's ugly is such a surface level nitpick of the real issue, but there are many issues with that game. Not even just counting like the look of the character, the story like doesn't appeal to me. The world, like the world is fine, right? Like I don't really see any problem with the world. But then you also have like like the game is an Ubisoft game, which runs like fucking garbage. Like I feel like needing a 4090 to get 30 FPS in that game is a good enough argument not to play it. To be fair, that kind of argument like kind of works with every game these days. I mean, my 2880 laptop is like being taxed by some of these games. That is a dope fucking go for me. But yeah, like for me, like the utterly shit dog shit performance. And that's a thing you can even bring back to Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 has horrendous PC performance and doesn't even have good PS5 performance. Like the game, like the story, the characters and all that is good. It's fine. I don't care about that. I care about the fact I can't play the fucking thing. I have it. I can't fucking play it. I can physically play it. It'll launch, but it's unplayable like of the frame rates and shit. And maybe it's like I have an APU in a laptop 2080, but that shouldn't be like I can't even play it on low 1080p or 720p. or 600 by 800 if I mean 800 by 600 if I'm really desperate. I can't even do that. Like even with all the DLSS shit and like if playing on a fucking toaster resolution on the lowest settings imaginable, I'm getting like 2 FPS. The fuck? Like this is a APU, by the way, that is equivalent to a 1650. What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like what in the genuine fuck is up with that? You know? I got 16. I got 32 gigs of RAM. 16 is. I mean, not 16. Yeah. No, actually, yeah. 16 is like no, not 16. It is actually just 8. 8 is dedicated to VRAM. I can dedicate 16, but 8 is dedicated strictly to VRAM. When I launch, I eat up 8 just to put it in VRAM for the APU. So I have 8 at all times. So I'm basically running like a 1650 with double the VRAM that it would have. And that's not enough. But that should be enough, right? There is no way that a 1650 functioning with 8 gigs of VRAM can't play a game that looks like it was, because I'm on low settings, it looks like it was made in the late PS3, early PS4 era of gaming. So 2013, by the way, that I can't do that, right? The fact that I can't play a 2014 looking title, 2013, 2014 looking title on 2024 hardware that is way better than that hardware ever was on anything, right? Nothing back then actually matched what like just the CPU APU combo thing that I have back then. Nothing did. Everything was weaker than this. So why can't I play a game that looks like it was from there? Like I can understand at max settings it looks like a modern game, but why can't I play it when it looks like trash? And that's the thing. I like there, and it just is so bad and so trash that I cannot recommend the game, even though it does for the story and all that appear to be good on a 4090, right? Like if you have a 4090, it's a good game. But why should that be a requirement for the game to be good? Right? Like that's what I feel like people are missing. Why are these hardware requirements so sky fucking high? To the ceiling, to the sky, to the fucking moon, to the fucking edge of the universe high, it feels like sometimes, right? Like the furthest edge of the universe is probably closer to us than the hardware requirements of some of these fucking games. And I feel like that is a much more pressing issue than any of this, right? And it's also like why a lot of these games, like some of these games actually wouldn't fail if they didn't have massive budgets, right? But they have budgets where the graphics and all that are so fucking high that the hardware can't even keep up. That's not good, right? And some of them they don't even look that much better, right? Like what's up with that, right? So why do I need a $2,000 GPU and like and like 2,000 more dollars in the rest of the hardware to get a stable frame rate in a game where I have to put on a upscaler to play it even and all that, right? And that's what I'm playing, right? I'm playing a game that doesn't even look that much better than the other games. I, right? Like you get what I'm saying here, right? Like I feel like that's a more pressing issue than any of this. And sure, it's not as prevalent on console games, so maybe that's not as pressing on like PS4 and Xbox games. But I feel like games have gotten a lot, like way too unoptimized on PC. It's not really good. It's not good looking good. And it is all laziness, right? It's all laziness. It's not necessarily lack of talent, but it is lack of effort, right? You know, like they could fix these things. Some of these things, there isn't even a good excuse. Like Unreal Engine 4 and 5 to this day do not auto export with the thing that makes it so you pre-compile the shaders when you launch the game. Why is that a problem, you may ask? Because basically every game has had massive issues related to the fact that the shaders aren't already compiled. And if you can't see why it's an issue that it's not defaulted on, Why can't the devs just do it if it's so easy to fix? And it is. The reason why it's bad that it's not auto is not everyone should have to if it's a prevalent thing, then just add it on by default, right? Or have like a toggle at like cooking process, right? Because in Unreal Engine, like in Unity and all that, when you export a game for like launch, it's called cooking, right? And it takes a while to cook the game in like where you compress the assets, you like basically like bake them into different like smaller sets of files and things that are far more compressed and easier for to download and use in the game, right? And it also like makes like all the dev code that is unoptimized for the editor go away. So now you have the most optimized version of the game, supposedly, right? And I say supposedly because, as I said, a lot of the settings that should be on by default are not. So you have to add them, and you can do this with an ini file, right? Which but the thing is, this ini file is also auto-generated, right? So anyone can really just add these optimizations in the engine, any game with the engine, right? But the problem is, as you can probably guess, they aren't like these are common lines that you have to put in every game in the engine. So every game, like a developer or a fan, whatever, if they want to play the game themselves, has to put in these lines to play the game at a good frame rate, unless they want to buy a fucking 4090. Why? Like, why can't they just be auto in there? See, that's a real problem that I don't think is even like a political thing. It's like just add the fucking lines. It's 5 fucking lines of text. Just fucking add it. It's not even a talent thing. Anyone could add this. I can add it. You can add it. It's not a talent thing. It's a laziness thing. They know the problem exists. They fixed it in their own game because Epic Games owns Fortnite and made Fortnite, right? And it doesn't happen in Fortnite. So they know the problem. They know how to fix it. And they have implemented the fixes in their own games. So why is it that other people have to implement them too when it's a known problem that they can easily fix themselves by putting it directly in the source code of the engine? So when you export your game by cooking it, it puts those in there already for you. You're you're the devs of the engine. This makes your engine look bad. People who look at this think Unreal Engine sucks. And like I've seen like plenty of people talking about Unreal Engine saying how much they fucking hate games made in it. It's such an easy fix that Epic could easily do themselves. And like I said, it makes them look bad, not even just the devs, because if every dev that uses it looks bad, it makes the engine developers look bad. And that's the thing. So there's no moral or whatever reason to not do it. There is literally, you just are too lazy to. You know the codes to put in there. You know what to do. You can easily do it. It's literally a copy pasta. Do it.
Good on you for discussing
Just
with
do it.
people. I think it's
And it
healthy.
literally
You
is
and I
Epic's
might
fault at
agree,
this
even
point,
on a
right?
meaning for it, but it doesn't
And
mean everyone else.
You could argue it's the dev or the user's fault because they can do it themselves too, and it literally is so easy. Like a fucking Steam forum exists that can be just put in every game. But why, right? Like if this problem was only in like games from like if this is only in Final Fantasy VII Remake on PC, I could kind of understand. But the fact that it's in every game now, I don't.
Does, which makes it hard to use.
It makes it harder to understand. Oh, it's in one game and we fixed it in all the others. The fact that it's in every like game since Unreal Engine, I think 4.18, that was using the engine, there's a problem.
End quote.
And it's not just the devs of the game itself not putting it in every single game. When they aren't taking it away, it just isn't already in there.
I said it before, I'll say it again. Never use the word woke as a shorthand for anything. It is far too fluid, and it is a very convenient goalpost that can be moved and placed anywhere. People.
But yeah, I think the real problem is that the word, like as it was meant to be meant, you said with, isn't even how anyone uses it anymore. So it's like a meaningless, nothing burger word anyway. Like it's just meant to say left wing politics, which isn't really what it means. It means being awake or aware, right, of systemic injustice, which isn't even what a single person will say it means anymore, right? Like unless they're like just left wing and stuff, just trying to defend like something. But like in that case, though, a lot of these things aren't woke, right? It's like Silent Hill 2, both the original and the remake aren't woke. But like if you twist the definition to like what is being used now, it is. Also, the thing that's being used now can be a bad thing and can be a good thing. The original definition is exclusively a good thing, right? And what I mean by that is the original definition is just, hey, look, like if some bad shit is happening around you, you should kind of pay attention to it, right? That's literally what the anti woke crowd is doing. They are woke themselves, right? By the actual definition of the word. In fact, the fact that they even have a system that they talk about is literally what wokeism is. They're talking about an injustice done systemically across all of gaming. That's literally wokeness. That's what the word means, right? So like that's really the real problem, right? The word isn't used to mean what it actually means, and it makes it so like people criticizing it look dumb and people defending it look dumb because the things that the left is defending are probably like what they think the word means from their side, right? Which is just being aware of racist stereotypes and things. And then the right is mad that there's like racist caricatures and tokenism and all that in the game, and they don't like the tokenism and virtue signaling and all that, and they're aware of that, right? And then they're mad that that's in there, right? Which isn't what which is what wokeism is, right? Like it's getting mad at systemic problems, right? So you're adding a system, a group, like a conspiracy even, against you, adding stereotypes and all these things that cause injustices in your eyes. That's wokeness. Like there is no way to say anti-woke content isn't woke by the original definition of the word, which is why I don't really like the word in fact at all. I agree entirely, by the way, because of that. Because the actual definition of the word is actually very good. And most people agree actually with wokeness when you actually describe it to them and show how like even what they're complaining about is would be most anti woke people are really anti fake wokeness, really, when it comes down to it, right? Where it's virtue signaling and all that, which most left wing people are also against, right? I'm against virtue signaling because it's fake and phony baloney, right? You might be against it for another reason, but we're both against the phony baloniness of a lot of things. And maybe you like are more against certain forms to the point you don't want to spend money, and I'll happily spend my money on some things if it's good enough, and vice versa, right? But at the end of the day, there's not really as much disagreement here as people think on both sides of the argument, which is really why I call this a grift. That's why I call it a grift, because there isn't even that much disagreement between normal people. The disagreement is all surface level between two like kind of like Kotaku style like groups, right? You have the actual Kotaku and you have like a right wing Kotaku, but they're not really doing anything but besides promoting rage bait. And some of them are genuine. Like I think the side scrollers, Eric July, as to a point, I kind of some of that doesn't seem as genuine anymore. And like Razor Fist, I think is pretty genuine. And people will probably call like the fact that he is a forum on Kiwi. I don't fucking care. Like you can call him a lolcow all you want. I don't fucking care. It doesn't mean anything to me. And stuff like that. But I think like actual lolcows, because calling someone a lolcow doesn't make them one. But quartering and Melanie Mac, honestly, at this point, like maybe before, but now I don't really think so. And like stuff like that. Yeah, I don't. I don't think they're genuine at all. And there's a difference between them, right? And then there's also genuine, but doesn't. I don't care that they're genuine, right? Like Synthetic Man, right? Synthetic Man's genuine hatred of minorities. I don't care, right? And like that's the thing. I differentiate in Synthetic Man from most people, right? I differentiate Synthetic Man from the Critical Drinker, for example, who I actually think is genuine. Like there's genuine Critical Drinker, Savvy, Alex. Oh no, it's Alex, right? Stuttering Craig and all that. Um, Non-genuine like the Quartering and all that, right? Where they're like just grifting for money. And then genuine, but their genuineness is that they're bad, which is people like Synthetic Man, and like Legal Mindset, baby. Actually, I don't know. He might just be bad and not genuine. I don't really know. He's a lawyer, so it's probably a bit of both, honestly. Um, like he might just be in his own category, but like Synthetic Man, another one would probably be like actually I can't even really find my. I got Andypants. There we go. Right in front of me. Yeah, those guys. No, not Andypants. Andypants would be not genuine. What the fuck? Like, man, Synthetic Man is just so hard to categorize as anything but Synthetic Man, isn't he? But yeah, Synthetic
Full
Man
of
is his
all
own
political
person, I
leanings,
guess,
hide
but
behind
it's not really a good person. And he's basically a parrot. He's a parrot. There we go. So like you have like a couple others that would fall under that, you know, and they're parrots basically. That's what it is.
it like their mother's dress. Never accept it in your discussions, and you will be happier for it. And you
And I agree. Yeah, just that's the other thing. Like this is a happy discussion right here, right? Like I'm not like for me, if you're angry at what you're discussing, just like stop. Like just like leave your wallet and your opinion at home. And by that I mean like just stop engaging in it altogether, especially monetarily.
can see this happen in the debate in real time.
I told you, I think it's incredibly strange to talk about Concord and not mention the clear woke slop.
So the thing about the word woke is it
I honestly, for me, I don't even think Concord's problem is that it's woke. It's that everything, because the other games are also woke in that genre. Like, there's not a single not woke hero shooter, right? Except, no, yeah. Even Team Fortress 2 is woke, right? So all of them are woke. But this one is the one that no one likes, right? So you get what I'm saying there, right? There's a reason, and there's many reasons why this one failed, right? Very poor marketing, ugly character designs, and just like extremely obviously forced diversity in many ways. Like the pronouns bullshit didn't even make sense. Like I said, there's a mushroom character that I don't even think is non-binary. The only one that makes the most fucking sense because mushrooms are non-binary genetically. And like you can pull, because the mushrooms are a hive mind, you can pull like we are, like we are fungo man, fungo pop, right? And because of that, you have like a cool like excuse even to make a character that's non-binary. And I don't even think that's non-binary character. I think it's like some like normal person, and that's like it's not that it's wrong that it's a normal person, right? I don't really mind that. I do mind, however, like the bad designs and extremely bad choices there, especially when like I said, there are points where from like just a design standpoint it makes sense and it would be cool, like a literal hive mind character. And that's why like they're non-binary, because they're not one person, they're like many people. It would be fucking cool as shit, because like Venom, right? It has that like amazing dialogue with a lot of things, right? I like that. That is awesome. Give me that, but they don't, and that's kind of the thing. They don't even like apply it in a good way, because they don't give a shit, right? And that's the other thing. Games that actually like tend to like give a shit about like LGBT stuff tend to be good, right? Like Cult of the Lamb is pretty good. And what's another one? Nimona. Very good movie. I mean, I'm taking it out of games and into movies for that one. Well, that's the other thing. Nimona and Lightyear are both woke. The difference is Lightyear had a scene that could easily be taken out that was like 15 seconds long, whereas Nimona, it's the entire movie, right? Nimona is awesome. Lightyear, it's okay. Like, it's not horrendous, but it's not good, right? And that's my thing, right? Which would you rather, like, consume? If you're like even just in the audience, you would rather consume, like, if you're LGBT, you would rather consume Nimona, a actual good movie that actually represents your issues and how you want to be perceived and stuff, right? That's cool, right? And that's what I really like want with like stuff like that, like bring me actual like discussion in the story about the actual issues of the actual characters, right? Don't just like, oh, they like the guy from the MCU is gay in Endgame, and he just kind of mentions it so briefly. I didn't even catch it when I watched it in theaters. Like, apparently he says he has a husband. The dude who is in a 5-second scene where like they're like discussing like their trauma and stuff, he kind of like loosely drops that he has a husband. I didn't even see that. That is how hidden it is. Like, as in I saw it, but like it didn't process it in my mind. Like, I don't even think that that's a problem with the film so much as it's a problem with like what the fuck is he in there for then? Like, the line doesn't, like, I guess, like, okay, but like if him being gay doesn't impact the story in any way, why is he gay, right? At all, right? You know what I mean? It gives no impact to it. And it's not like, oh, it's for like people who are representative of that because it's a movie, right? I can't choose what that line is going to be, right? If it's a character creator, I choose to make that character, right? Maybe I want to be a non-binary like a monstrosity. Maybe I just want to do it because it's funny to me, right? Maybe I want to do it because I just want to be in that kind of role shoes. And maybe I don't want to do it, in which case I could just do something else. This is why I don't really like care that much with character creators, because to me, like, as long as like the options I want are in there, if I don't want to interact with something else, I don't have to, right? It's an optional feature, really, like basically, right? I create a character that kind of looks like something I want, and then if I can't like, and as long as I can do that, all the other options are meaningless to me, right? But they might be meaningful more for someone else, which is why I don't see any problem with them including those. I see a problem with them not including the ones I want, not them including what other people want, right? And when it comes down to it, I'm not even going to complain about stuff like that anyway, because if they don't include stuff I want, I'm not going to play the fucking game. And if they include stuff I want and what other people want as well, and I'll just play the game, right? And maybe if the game sucks, and I will stop playing it and refund it. But if they don't include options I like at all on any of the characters, I'm not going to play it. But if they do, hey, look, hey, like, they changed it to like benefit a group of people that aren't me. I don't care, right? It's not affecting me in any way, but it is affecting them, right? And it's affecting them positively. So for me, that's not a problem. So that's why I don't really care too much about like these kinds of debates all the time. But when it comes to things that are actually mattering, right, I do. And like I said, when it's in a movie, optional features, like that, like where it's like, it's an optional feature, we can get rid of it if the audience doesn't like it. That's not like, that's not telling a story then. It has no bearing on the story, but it is in the story. Or it's not in the story and it doesn't, like, you know what I mean? If it's a 15-second scene you can remove and it's made for the purpose of you can remove it for the Middle East and China, don't put it there. Like, if you want the Chinese money, then don't, like, you know what I mean? And if you don't want the Chinese money, then make the story actually like work with it. That's why I like Nimona. It is about that. It's not there's a token character. It's about gay stuff, right? It's about trans issues, it's about mental health, it's about suicide, it's about a lot of things. And all of them are core to the story, which is why it's good, right? It resonates with people who go through those things because it actually tells a story relevant to them. Even if you aren't LGBT or gay, you can still resonate with depression, suicidal thoughts, things that almost everyone has had, right? Things like like a grief and all that. Like it has actual issues that it actually talks about and is an allegory to actual problems and actual solutions in the world. That's a good movie, right? Like even if you don't like trans people, you can't deny that there are good things it talks about. The gay guy in Endgame, it talks about nothing. You take away that scene, it changes no value to the movie. And the thing is, you're like, well, why change it? Why are you mad when you if it's like that in a movie, but not in a character creator? The thing is, the character creator is not supposed to impact the game. The character creator is me. That's me I'm playing, right? As long as I can create who I want, it doesn't matter. This is my game at that point, right? I'm playing who I want to be, right? But when it's not my choice, right? When it's someone else's choice, um, then for me it depends. Like, is this a side quest or is this main story? If it's a side quest, hey, look, I can just ignore it if I don't like it, right? Or I can play it once just to experience it and never again, right? Or if it's a main quest, right? The main quest, that's where I have issues because then it's a movie. Basically, I have to do this. This is not a choice for the player. This is forced upon me. And so if it's a main quest, I have to do this. There is no option to not avoid this. Has something I don't like, then it becomes a story related problem for me. And it's the same like if it's a movie, right? And it's not even that I don't like the scene. It's like whatever, right? It has no impact. But then that also goes in. If it's a story change and it has no impact, then it's filler, right? And no one likes filler, right? No one likes filler. Filler always sucks. Always. And that's really what it comes down to. Content that is just put in there and then can easily be taken out or put in back in is not good content because it's there for filler. Even if you take away the virtue signaling part, it's filler. And filler is bad. Like, it just is bad. Like it just is bad, right? If it's not moving ahead the story, it's bad. And if you say, well, you like anime and anime is full of filler, first off, not every new anime is. It used to be a problem. It's not anymore. And second, yeah, I had a problem with that. I had a problem with Dragon Ball Z taking 9,001 episodes for Goku to throw a punch at Frieza. I had a problem with that. Okay? I did. I enjoyed the series despite of that issue, not because of it. Right? Now, some filler I enjoyed as like, wholesome, like, wholesome filler just because, like, hey, it was like fun to watch, but as a story point of view, it was worthless, right? And that's my view on filler. Like now, it can be cool, right? Some filler can be awesome, but at the end of the day, it's pointless because it doesn't move the story. And like I said, some filler can be entertaining, and so for the moment I'm watching it, I'm fine with it. But when I realized it didn't actually go anywhere, I kind of don't like it anymore as much as I did. Now, sometimes it's an arc of filler, like Bleach has had an entire arc of filler, and at that point, it's no longer filler for the later parts of the season. It's the entire season, and in which case I can kind of forgive that more because it's an entire new storyline that's made up for the entire because the manga took a break, right? And so at that point, you can kind of defend it again, right? Because now it's like it's not really filler at that point. It's a story that isn't in the manga, right? Because for me, filler is just a look. It's like, it's fluff. It's filler, right? And fluff and filler are not good. The point of fluff and filler is to have something there that isn't the thing you want, right? Like the cream in a donut, right? You kind of like the cream, but it's not really the reason you eat the donut. You know, like when it's the reason you eat the cream, it's not like, then it's the cream. But if it's just like a little bit of a kind of a little sweet little coldness to it, hey, it's fine, but that's not why I'm eating this. I'm eating because of the very sweet, sugary, like nectary, like outside. That's very good, right? And the filler is more just so I don't die of diabetes after eating it.
It harkens back
Right?
to that
I don't
old
like that
story
kind of
we
filler,
all
but it's
read
fine.
and were taught when we were growing up. The boy who cried wolf. These days, it's the boy who cried woke. There is so much disingenuous criticism using the word woke. The word is so liberally applied to everything that
And I agree. And I also think like the word isn't even like really meaningful at all at this point, like I said.
the ending
But
of the
at
story
the same point, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
of the boy who cried wolf is that at the end there was a wolf out there, but because there were so many false claims of there being a wolf, the people didn't help him.
Yeah, so Andypants really trying there. But it's really easy to spin. Actman can then use the comparison of the boy that cried wolf, and he is 100% right. Now, unfortunately for Andypants, he missed the part where the Actman says there was actually a wolf.
Honestly, I do think that this person putting the trailer for Concord on for this segment is disgusting. Not because like of any like major thing. I just don't like Concord.
Because
Like,
without meaning
get rid
to
of it. Get that out of my face. Like, I know what they said because I watched the video. Like I said, get that out of my face. Put like something worth
interesting
going on.
direction to take, because the moral of the story is that no one believed the boy. Right, the
We're
town
talking
suffered
about,
as a
like, how, like,
literally
yeah,
just
get that out of my face. Get Concord out of my face. There we go.
how does a grift work? Because people use the word incorrect.
Sorry, I know like everyone's gonna be like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, I don't.
There
like
has to be an
Concord.
exchange of money.
Yeah.
But I understand what they're trying to get at, so let's look at one. Protein shake diet programs are a grift.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that is a thing. Yeah, protein shakes are a grift.
The word scam is interchangeable here. People feel bad about their weight, they see the shake on the store shelf or someone selling it, they see the claims of results, but more importantly, that it is convenient and that...
And also, that's the other thing. For me, grift is not really just scam. Grift is just being like, you wouldn't do this if it didn't make you money, right? Like a person like Synthetic Man, I don't think is a grifter because he would do this if he wasn't making money, right? Because he doesn't even make that much money and he still does it, right? So for me, it's not a grift for him because he was gonna do it anyway, right? But like the quartering in Melody and Mac, it is a grift, and it feels like they aren't even enjoying the grift, really. Which is really why I don't really see why they still do it. Like, just do what you want. You're millionaires. Do what you fucking want. Like, do something you actually like doing. Don't enslave yourself for a couple bucks that you don't even need anymore. Like, you can, like, just enjoy yourself. You might even make more money later that way. It's a risk, but it's a risk I would take for my own mental health, right? And the best part is, instead of complaining about woke shit, you get to enjoy things you actually want. So you're doing like your mental health a favor. You might show people who you actually want to enjoy the things you actually like, the things you like, and not the things you don't. And you're genuinely just probably going to be richer because at the end of the day, while this kind of content of negativity gets more engagement, it also has less people interested in it, right? So more people are soon to click, but soon to click away, right? Like most people don't watch a quartering video all the way, or an ads video all the way, or even some Asmongold content. Although thankfully Asmongold is very short and to the point usually. Like most of his videos end up being just clips that are shorts on YouTube. Which is, obviously probably like where the most of that content really kind of succeeds the most now is shorts from like streams, right? And the thing is, like a stream also like is probably a better way to do it with shorts as well, because then they can just like, hey, look, this is just a thing I said randomly, like because someone asked me to. Whereas like a lot of these other videos, it's like you chose to make a dog shit video where you complained about things you don't like for like several hours, which you could irony, I know, instead of something you enjoy. Right? It is very like unhealthy.
All you have to do is follow the rules. Technically, everything they said is true. Protein is very efficient for dieting, it's satiating, it helps retain muscle mass, which is an important factor in weight loss. All true. The part they don't say is that you will be miserable. You will quickly drop some weight, but it's often water weight.
Oh yeah, that also is true. Yeah, here's my thing. Drop the soda, eat more chicken. Like just get some eggs and some chicken in there. You'll enjoy it. Like or some pork chops or something. Like eat less junk, eat more good actual food, and you will actually see much more results both in physical and mental like health, right? Because it's physically healthy for you and it's mentally healthy for you because it tastes better. Honestly, soda is okay, but like it's just sugar, right? Meat has all these things in there, right? You get all these you got all these spices too. You're probably gonna use. You can experiment a lot with meat too. Like, hey, look, you want something spicy? You get a little Cajun or in there or some curry. Yeah, bon appetit, motherfucker. Yeah, get some good shit. And it's so much better. You have to cook more often, right? But you end up finding out that you don't even have to cook food that long for it to be edible, right? Unless you want to roast or something, you can just kind of bake chicken in an hour. Just bake some chicken that you can buy at Aldi's in an hour, right? You buy that Aldi chicken, you cook it, and you're starting to feel so much better after you eat it, right? Because it tastes better. It gives you more of those nutrition your body needs. Um, you have more variety in what you can eat because you have the ingredients for flavor and the meat in two different spots, so you can interchange them. You can also mix it up too. Like maybe you want like a more sweet thing too. Like you can cook some berries in like a pan, right? Put it like in a sauce, make a sauce out of it, and make like kind of a sweet sauce for the chicken. I've done that. It's so good, right? And you just put a little salt in there too to make it like more palatable to the meat. Fucking amazing. And you get the fiber and like a bit of the sugar from the berries and all of the antioxidants and things from it. And you're eating real good food that you can buy in bulk and have for weeks or months on end. That it's cheaper, it's way healthier, and you will enjoy every bit of it. As soon as you later learn to cook, they will enjoy all of that. It is such a fantastic world when you cook your own food and stop drinking crap. I can tell you that. And that's all you have to do. Cook your own meals and eat less garbage. You will enjoy your life so much more, right? And like that's the thing. Protein shakes, no. Real food, yeah.
It takes way longer than they say it does, and you need muscle stimulus to retain your muscle mass in a deficit, so having the protein is only minimally effective. Your muscle mass drops, the requirement for the deficit increases beyond what is bearable, and you start snacking when no one is looking. Eventually, you give up and you believe it was your fault because you didn't stick to the plan. But hey, maybe you'll try again later. A grift requires a truth to sell a lie. It must address a person's wants or needs, especially on an emotional level. It starts with someone feeling bad about their weight, not the shake. So logically, it follows that if there wasn't a demand, there also...
This is anti-woke content I actually enjoy. But then again, I don't even think this is anti-woke content. I think this is the actual issue with things. And, this is what I actually want to hear, kind of thing.
Wouldn't be a supply.
Like, the fact journalists lie to you, right? And will lie to your face about, like, their desires and things. The fact that, people are just rampantly, like, being hired that aren't qualified for the job. Maybe they are, like... maybe they don't like. I feel like the real issue though is people go up against the DEI hirees, not the employers. And here's the reason why, right? most people, when you get hired from a job for a job, you think you're qualified, right? So you're telling them they were like that their boss didn't hire them for the reasons, and they will not believe you, and they shouldn't believe you because there's no reason in their worldview they should ever have just been a diversity hire because they did work their ass off. It's not like they did no work to get there, right? So you're telling them like things like that they can like look at their life and feel is a lie. And the other thing is I don't even think it's really that truthful. I think what it is they just shouldn't have worked on that project. Like most of the time it's just they should have worked on something that's more suitable to their desires and interests. Because here's the thing. Someone who wants to make a game will make a good game. Someone who doesn't want to make a game will not make a good game. And that is entirely 100% all the time. If you don't make things you like, you will not, the people who watch it will not, or play it, will not enjoy it. The consumer really doesn't like things that don't have passion behind it. Most of the time, they will not. There are some exceptions, but as they say, exceptions to the rule, what? Prove the rule, right? And that's kind of the thing, right? If the rule has exceptions, it is still a rule. It's just now they are kind of like, this is why there's a rule, right? Because sometimes there are exceptions, and and that's why they're like kind of the outliers, whereas the rule is like the majority, right? So like the rule of biology, right? There are occasions where XX doesn't actually translate to ovum. It might even somehow translate to sperm, right? Where you are a man, like biologically, genetically, and all that, but your chromosomes are still XX somehow. Make sense of that, right? Well, the thing is, we don't have to because it's not the rule, it's an exception to it. It's an extremely rare exception that, like, maybe like one in like a billion people have, right? So you need like several generations of every human being on the planet just to get like 10, right? So you're not going to see people like that very often. And most people will never meet anyone like that, right? But it is a thing that can happen and very rarely does. But we don't really need to make laws about that, right? We can make, you don't just, like, the only thing we need is don't discriminate someone based off of their, like their medical or condition or whatever. And there you go, their gender or anything like that. You got it. It's already in there. And that's the only law you need to make. Just don't discriminate people on things that they can't control. Their race, their skin color, or anything like that, right? Or their beliefs, their religion, or whatever, right? And that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. And that's what we already have. We already have this. You don't need to add anything. So, like that's the other thing. Like the laws don't need to match anything because the laws already would match it. Is like the way I would say it, right? And so, for me, right, like the thing is, unless there's a like actual issue, like with sports, like trans athletes aren't necessarily an issue in non-contact sports, but in contact sports it is, right? The reason why I defend Amani Khalif is not because she's a trans woman, it's because she isn't trans. In fact, she's very transphobic. In fact, like I said, her like criticism of J.K. Rowling, a lot of it is that she doesn't even disagree with her on that issue, in that she's like, dog, like I'm on your fucking side on that issue. I don't want men in the ring. I don't want them in the ring. I want women because a man would beat the shit out of me. And like the thing is like, because that's the thing. This like all the evidence points to she's a woman. Girl pictures, like when she was younger, she was clearly a girl. At 6 years old, the country is extremely transphobic. She's not very pro-trans either. Like when you have all of that combined, yeah, I don't think so, right? Like and the things that like they try to say that she must be trans are extremely straw graspy, right? The idea that their religion would forbid it when not all sects of Islam are the same. Like like Islam is sort of like Christianity. Like Baptist and Methodist are not the same. a Catholic and a Protestant are not the same. They are the same religion. They are not the same sect or interpretation of it, right? So Islam has a few of them. It's not at 10,000 whatever like they have in the US, but it has at least a dozen. So there's a dozen ways that people interpret this book. So she has one that isn't that one that you're talking about, where they do interpret it that way, right? And that's the easiest explanation ever, right? Their country is more moderate than, say, Syria, but less moderate than, say, like the United States on that issue. Because they still like imprison and sometimes execute trans people, which would make it very unlikely that this story was even possible, which is why I don't believe that it is, right? And then you have all the evidence which proves it is impossible. And now we have the story is impossible. So either like Russian like scientists have a miracle like genetic changer that they injected in her, which doesn't exist, or the organization lied. And what comes out is the organization doesn't even do the tests that they said they did. So that's the proof. The person who was accusing her of being a man lied about their results because they didn't even take the tests that they said they did. That's the conclusion to this story. Amani Khalif did not lie about these things. The people who took these tests did. And that is a statement by them. So why is it that a year later we are bringing up an open liars like a testimony as a reason to hate on someone for winning a boxing match, right? You know what I mean? But if it was a trans woman, right? If it was a man, there would still be enough like of a difference that I would not support that, right? And that's the thing, you know. Now, if it's like swimming, hey, look, I don't care. They're swimming, right? There's no contact in there, right? But if or running, right? Like if they're not like touching each other, I don't care. But football, no. Rugby, no. Hockey, no. Right? You get the idea, right? If there's any physical contact of the athletes, where it's not even just an advantage, it's a literal like you could literally like a Mike Tyson could kill a woman in the ring, right? Kind of difference. Then yeah, I do actually think that there's a problem there.
The presence of
And even a featherweight man, as I've said, a featherweight man can beat a heavyweight woman in the ring easily. Because the featherweight men are even like stronger than most, if not all, heavyweight women. That's just the reality of it, right? And it's not that women can't do strong like things and whatever. It's that this is just one of those things that like, you know, women can't compete with men at. Now, if there's a sword, right, then there's a difference. But also, like, you know, fencing, you know, it's not really a contact sport as much anymore because they tend to use non-lethal like blades, right? Where the sport is more of you're wielding these things, but they're not lethal to you. So it's more of a skill gap in most cases than a strength gap. Most of the strength gap when you have fencing is kind of irrelevant to the skill gap, right? So a skilled female fencer can beat up an unskilled male fencer most of the time, no matter how much strength he has, because they both are strong enough that the gap doesn't matter there. And then the skill gap and reach gap and all that does matter more, right? And so like that's why like, you know, it depends, I guess, if it's like fencing and stuff. But other than that, and the same thing like guns, right? The gun like the gun shootout, like didn't a woman win that? But like a man almost got very like did better in the first 3 rounds, but then a woman won it, right? If the way if I recall correctly is what happened. That is like not a contact sport though. That is a sport, it's not a contact sport. And also a woman fucking won, right? But that's the thing. Those are sports where women have no disadvantage that is like biological in them, right? And then sports where it's non-contact at all, right? I don't care either because hey, look, if a woman wants to compete with a man, um, like we'll have like I think the solution to that is not like have trans women in the women's like arena. It's more to have women be able to compete with men in just the like regular version, right? And what that will do, right, is just show like yeah, it doesn't really matter because hey, at the end of the day, like marathons are run like that. Like men and women don't have separate marathons, right? And the reason for it is because the point of a marathon is more even like you're proving it to yourself at that point, right? But it's not a contact sport. No one's fighting each other. No one's getting beat the shit out of. You're just running, right? And trying to get to the end before everyone else. Some people aren't even trying to get to the end before anyone else. Some people are just trying to say they made it to the end, right? So, with marathons and stuff, it depends, right? But with contact sports, it doesn't depend unless it's like one where like they kind of remove the strength advantage to enough of a point where women can compete and they aren't going to get hurt, right? Because the fencing, while yes, it does like the strength advantage is still there because you're not even like getting hurt with like if you're playing it right, right? Like if a man tries to assault a woman in fencing, he goes to prison, right? And vice versa, right? Because you're not supposed to like use your fisticuffs or anything. You're supposed to use these like blades things, right? And you're supposed to use it in a certain way, right? That's like how the rules are. If you break those rules, you can get like penalties and whatever. And if you try to assault someone in that, you'd lose, and you also can go to jail, right? So, that's like the thing too. Like, what is the contact? I guess can be sometimes a debate when it's like fencing and stuff, right? And then like things like where it's not even really like a physical sport at all, like the gun thing. Well, then there's not even an advantage there, so there's no point, right?
So-called
So for me, it depends on what what it is, right? Like
grifters.
would you like chess, right? I wouldn't care. A woman like the women might be behind in chess right now, but it's not a gap of biology. It's more of a gap of some men just are so much more dedicated than women at this thing right now that they can do it. But that's also like kind of like historical, like women weren't really allowed to do certain things after, for a point too, right? But the other thing is the women who are champions aren't losing to rookie men, right? Like a man who's a rookie in chess isn't gonna stand a chance against a grandmaster woman. In a sport where you're like boxing, right? A rookie man is still at enough of an advantage that even a heavyweight champion woman can lose to him, and it might even be very bad for her. That's like why I'm saying contact sports, no, right?
That spout
You know,
anti-progressive rhetoric in the
like
media.
sure the top female chess player isn't beating Magnum. Yeah, we'll just do Magnum Carlos, right? Magnus Carlsen, right? She's not beating him, but like she's beating a good portion of male chess players and all the female ones too, right? So yeah, like for me, like that's kind of like why I don't really care too much about like gendering like fucking chess tournaments, right? Right, like it's chess, right? Or card tournaments too, right? Like for me, that's more of you're only doing it because there's only like you're doing it more for like, hey, look, it's a woman's only club or a man's only club at that point, right? But the official tournament should be like non like gendered, right? And they are usually like I think chess tournaments are non-gendered and all that. There's just like occasionally there's a man's only and a woman's only tournament, but in reality, like in like the nationals and all that, it's fair game, right? Which works because it doesn't matter, right?
Is not an
You're
indicator
all
that there are
able to
many
compete with each
liars
other at the
attached
end
to
of
an
the day,
ideology. That
because
has
it's just
always
a
been true for
sport
both of them. Rather,
where you're not playing it where there's a biological inherent advantage.
it is evidence that there is a large component of the gaming community that are not happy with gaming, and there are a subset of content creators.
I feel like some of like yeah, so I feel like the thing is too like it depends on the game and the person, right? So like Sydney Watson makes some good points, same with Savvy and stuff too, right? I don't agree with everything either of these people say, right? But I kind of can like sympathize with them sometimes. I feel like, why do you only like, why do you keep saying like Craig and women, right? But like that's kind of the thing. There's not too many like genuine people that I just know, right? Because they don't seek that content out really that much anyway.
that
I
are
watched Craig because I was a fan of Screw Attack, and I was wondering where the fuck he even was, right?
correctly identified.
That's like where went to side scrollers anyway. Asmongold I feel is pretty genuine with some things and disingenuous in others. But really what it comes down to is Asmongold's more of a troll anyway, right? Like people got mad also, by the way, that Asmongold just said, like in his real like response to the like the original apology video he did, which was that he just doesn't want to be as hostile, which I think is a good thing, right? I think he should be less hostile, right? But he can still like criticize like this stuff, just be less
Identifying and
hostile about it.
repeating-
like the same thing like the Palestine thing, right? First off, the Palestine thing was the first time he actually genuinely got canceled, right? He didn't get canceled with all the other takes he's had, because canceling would require like a little more than what happened in those cases, right? No consequences were going to be faced earlier, right? And then in this time there were consequences for what he said, right? He got fired from multiple companies he founded, right? And made like very good, right? And you might be like, well, why? And the reason is some things just genuinely are uncalled for. And what he said, it wasn't even that he said anything uncalled for, it was how he said it, right? I know like people are gonna be like, why does that matter? When you say you genuinely don't give a shit about people being killed in mass because a portion of the people are horrendously shitty too, you kind of sound like a massive dick. And the thing is, most Palestinians, despite that 70% number of people say, don't actually support Hamas, right? The 70% is like a commie number, is what I call it, right? Any commie country that says how many people support their ideology is always going to be that big 70. When you see 70% and there's any way it can be interpreted as communist, you know.
What many people
Okay?
are thinking.
Just so you know, that's a pattern I realized, right? And the thing is, like I said, patterns that are direct, like you can kind of one-to-one them, are easy. Like conspiracy theories where you can one-to-one them are almost always true. It's when you have to have like 30 steps that they're usually false, right?
Whether it's
The more steps you involve, the less likely they're true.
true or not. And what's funny is
So they started like the whole BlackRock and all this with Sweet Baby Inc. and all that. I don't think that's really the problem. But MasterCard, you literally can directly put MasterCard as a influence on a lot of these issues and see like the beliefs of the people behind MasterCard and like the result of the companies that have to deal with them. And you will see a direct result of their beliefs being pushed onto the games and movies. So that's like, there's no conspiracy theory there. It's a one-to-one relation kind of thing, right?
the Actman correctly
I don't really even think conspiracy theory is the right word here, because it's not a crime what's happening. It's just I don't like it, right? So it's not even really conspiracy theorist, because that's the other thing. Conspiracy theory is also like, it's not even really conspiracy part either. It's not, there's no conspiring to commit a crime here, and there's not a group of people, right? I always find it funny when people say conspiracy theory and it's one person who is doing something that isn't a crime, right? Like that's not a conspiracy theory. Like unless you're jokingly using that word, it's not like what you mean. It to say conspiracy theory doesn't mean like, oh, it's like it sounds crazy. It means it's a crime that's being performed shadily by a group of people.
identifies that there is
It's conspiring to commit a crime, a conspiracy, right?
a surge of
And a theory is like putting evidence and like all that together to find it, right? And when it comes to a conspiracy theory that's true, there's usually not too many steps to the conspiracy, really. Like a conspiracy to assassinate Donald Trump, like it really comes down to like people didn't like how things went with the debate. Some people are very mentally ill, so a mentally ill person tried to fucking shoot him, right? That's the conspiracy, right? There's not really that much, but that's what's true, right? The idea that BlackRock and all that are behind it, like the evidence is just that BlackRock invested in so much shit that they invested in something that like so many people have been into. Like you could probably find evidence of Craig like doing something that BlackRock sponsored, right? Stuttering Craig, and he's very against them now, right? But that's just how much influence they have over like investments, right? They don't have a lot. Not influence, but that's how many things they've invested in. They don't have that much influence. I will say that, but they have a lot of money that they've invested into a lot of things. So, like, yeah, they have, but it's not really any. It's not really saying anything, right? Like, they invested money into good things. They invested money into bad things, right? And so bad person, is involved with them is kind of like meaningless because pretty much everyone kind of is. It's the same with Mastercard. Pretty much everyone is involved in Mastercard. The difference is Mastercard controls like the exchange of money, and so businessmen tend to listen to that more than anyone else, and they are also more pushy with their things. Like they will literally ban you from being able to make or receive purchases under their services, which include like half the banks in the world, right? And in fact, they literally had Visa was the other one that's also had similar beliefs to Mastercard, just not as extreme. Lied to the Japanese government about issues with their payment providers because Japanese citizens were having problems buying from Japanese businessmen, and the only link to them was Visa. They all had Visa, and so Japan, not being dumb, saw that Visa was a problem. They went to America and confronted Visa, and Visa tried to lie to their face, right? And hopefully, Japan will go further and take them to court for lying to government officials
Corporate.
because that's what happened, right? A credit card company lied to government officials who came there asking why their own citizens and their own citizens' businesses weren't allowed to operate under their card. And they lied to them about what was happening. That's why, like we don't really need to have these big conspiracy theories where like this invest. There are already people who do that far worse, and they have far more influence because they literally control the money. No government's going to come like cower to BlackRock, but there are governments who have had literally lied to their face by fucking Visa and have no consequences because the government can't even afford to go after them. Japan can't even afford to go after Visa, right? Japan can't even afford to go after Visa. Japan, a very prosperous country with a lot of prosperous businesses that a lot of people, well, not everyone necessarily, guys, but a lot of people, you, me, a lot of people love, can't even go to court with the company that's wronging them because the company is just so much more influential than their entire government can solve. That's fucked up, right? And it's true. And that's the worst part, right? That's kind of like the thing. Why are we mad at to be fair, this one I don't really care. Like Erika Ishii, like look, she's against Trump and she's kind of racist. I don't fucking care. Unless I hear some like anti-white racism in the game. Like they're not gonna talk about Trump most likely. And honestly, like I don't really care if they do anyway, but they're not going to. So unless she's like anti-white in the game, I don't really care. Like, who the fuck cares what she says? She's an actress that like will like be gone in the next game anyway. Because she'll like if Ghost of Tsushima, right, doesn't have a sequel, then Ghost of Yote most likely won't either, right? So it'll go Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yote, and then we'll have another Ghost game, right? So the Ghost of Yote will not have a sequel, so she will not be in the next game regardless, right? There will be another game that will not start her. So as long as the game itself has nothing wrong with it, I don't see a problem because she has no real influence over the product. Right?
Support for gaming after BLM.
But yeah. Oh yeah, BLM. Yeah, BLM. Fucking like, man, it did a lot of damage to a lot of things, really. But not the things they wanted to. That's the weirdest thing, right? They did all this damage to all these industries, things like pandering and stuff. But you know what didn't happen? Police changes, you know? Some police like got fired, but they weren't the problematic ones. And then some police left, but they weren't the problematic ones. And you know, the actual changes people actually wanted didn't happen. And then, you know, they just burned down cities for nothing, right? So yeah, it kind of sucks there, you know? It's just saying. Like, even if they are genuine, like, in your support of BLM, that shit did nothing.
And then spends all of his time focused.
I do think this is really funny, too. Ryan Kill, like, he's using this red shirt girl. This red shirt girl, like I said, she's the only reasonable one on the 4 horsemen of SJWs, right? Trigglypuff, and red hair and green shirt guy were all like actually like speaking nonsense. This is a girl like who is being like shouted at in a shouting match, and it's just a video of them all shouting at each other. And she kind of makes a brief Jim Carrey face at him while speaking because she has to shout, right? And when you put power in your voice, you move your lips a bit more, right? And so really, like, this isn't even like, this is a Nothing Burger image, right? From a Nothing Burger thing, right? Where like literally she was the reasonable one in the video, right? The guy was talking about like how everyone, like all the like men crossing the Mexican border are fucking rapists and shit. And she just kind of like won the debate by saying, so you're kind of saying that like all men are like, there's more male rapists than women or something like that. Wait, what? And yeah, that was kind of like the thing, right? Like he was all, that was like his thing. So like it was very much like in her favor in that video, which is why I kind of find it funny that it is like a meme image, right? But it's just kind of like no one really cares. It's sort of like, you know, no one really cares that You Don't Say was never actually said in the scene with Nicolas Cage, or that of course wasn't his dastardly plan, but that you know, the main characters were still alive. You know, he wasn't taking over the world. He was saying that the characters were still alive. Like, which is like weird when you see only the meme and then you see the movie like I did. I was like, wait, he just means that like Guile and Ryu are still. Oh, what? Right? Yeah. Yeah. That meme lied to you. He's just saying, of course they are alive, right?
On YouTubers like Andypants. I said it
You know,
before.
it is part of his evil plan to take over the world, but that's not what he's like saying in that line, right? You know, his plan involves them being alive, right? So of course they are alive, right? Of course. You know, because he doesn't say they're alive. She asks them. She's like shocked that they're alive, and he says, "Of course," right? And it's like that's kind of the meme, like as it actually happened in real life. So memes aren't really like indicative necessarily of the scene itself, but more like the mood it conveys as like an image or GIF or something.
I'll say it again.
So you know,
You
it
judge
still
a tree
works, just
by
it
its
isn't
fruit,
true,
but here-
like to the thing.
There's
itself.
another one. Listen to their words, but watch their hands. After the debate with Andypants, and after making his Everything is Woke video, he had his tweet calling for other masturbates, and then chose not to have a conversation with anyone that volunteered, but instead go after Melanie Mac's unhinged take on the new Halo Spartan armor.
I do agree that it is kind of unhinged. I do think I do kind of agree that some of it is like also weird with some things, like it's not really that bad
To
though.
quote,
For me, the problem with the new Master Chief armor is not even something you can fix with the edits this person did, because it's not really the
I'm usually a big
proportions really. It's more of, so this looks like metal, this looks like plastic.
advocate for the mentally
Like the real issue is the armor doesn't look like armor. It looks like cheap toys.
disabled, but this take is so dog shit, I have to make an exception.
Well, yeah, like it is a dog shit take, to be fair though.
End
Like,
quote.
there's
To be
not-
fair, I don't care about Halo enough to have an opinion on this either way, but he seemed pretty vitriolic about it. I mean, couldn't have anything to do with the fact that he had the opposite opinion, right? I wonder what he said about it. To quote, "Why is he so sexy? Chief, save some pussy for the rest of us." End
I
quote.
mean, to be fair, that's kind of just a joke. Like,
He would then go on to say,
see that as an opinion, but let's get real on that. But like, this is where like, yeah,
getting real
no
sick
mask off on that. But yeah, I don't
of these
like,
pussy
but like, yeah,
he has
the thing is,
political
like, they're gonna say,
ideologues
like,
masquerading
Max
as
plays
gaming,
games,
unfortunately.
which,
There
yes,
is
he
but one.
does. I don't see that as like an own anyway, right? Like, it's more of a like, why aren't you talking about actual things you enjoy? Really, is what I would take it as. Because like, why isn't she, like, her content was better when she was like, it's got less engagement, but it wasn't worse, right? You look at her old content, what do you feel? Happy, joy, kind of like informed in a good way, because now you like things you might not have heard about, right? You look at her new content, you might not even necessarily feel informed, but you'll feel mad and upset and like enraged even, right? That, you're not feeling the happy chemicals. You don't want to watch that. You want the thing to not, that is in the video, to not be true, right? So that's why I'm saying, like promote good things, don't attack bad things. And here's the reason why. Promoting good things is better than attacking bad things 100% of the time. If you only attack the bad things, right? First, like I said, mental health, you will not enjoy, that fight for long, right? The other thing is, like, it's more important, right? Is you're not helping create anything of value. You're just destroying something that you don't like the value of, right? And you might not destroy it, but that's the best you'll get, right? You're not going to add things you like, you're going to take away things you don't, if you actually succeed. And if you don't, then you're not going to do any of that, right? Whereas if you go for in promoting things you enjoy, the opposite happens, right? And it's also much more likely you'll succeed, first off. The other thing is you'll feel better, right? Which also helps you succeed, because you'll be more motivated, right? And, all that, right? So the real issue really here with like all the negativity and stuff is the change of the algorithm. I'm just going to say it. The adpocalypse is still happening in 2024. And the only difference is this is the content we got to make money. See, I don't necessarily want that kind of content. But I also will not make money doing much of my content, right? And I'm fine with that, but that's really like when we get to the meat and potatoes of it, that's really what it comes down to, right?
one thing that
Um, they're making the content because that's what they need to make money. They need to survive somehow. It's a hustle, right? And that's really what it comes down to. This hustle would not have existed in 2012 as prominent as it is, because back then the content favored more good content, where
hey there,
stars and all that were more favorable, right? Then I just clicked on the video by accident. Anyway, when they were more favorable than like in views and all that, well, they were more favorable than views. So when you subscribe to someone, right, This bell icon thing, this bullshit with the bell, didn't exist. You hit subscribe, you got your videos, right? You liked the video, it had a little playlist thing, right? Where like you had all your liked videos in one thing. That's still there, to be fair, but um like another thing is like, you spent more time in the search engine, than you did over here, right? Another thing that was a thing, right? The things you got recommended were tagged a lot better. So things that were anti what you just watched were not the top of the video, right? So like a good way to say it, right? This isn't even like related to what I'm watching. Like this, this. What does any of this have to do with this video? Maybe this one, right? Maybe this one. Oh, no, that's Papa Me. I thought that was Papa Gut for a second. I was thinking maybe that. Yeah, maybe this video. One video is related to what I'm watching, right? So it used to be you would go to Markiplier, you would see Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, you would see PewDiePie, you would see maybe some JonTron, maybe some Game Grumps, right? But what you would not see, right, even if you liked them, was like Egoraptor's main channel, right? Because if you're not watching the Game Grumps, you wouldn't really see it with Markiplier, right? You would not see like someone bitching about Markiplier, right? You would not see, like a quartering video that's vaguely kind of related to gaming very loosely, not really, right? You would not see that, right? You would see stuff related to Markiplier and gaming and stuff like that, but it would primarily do Markiplier and his friends, right? So you would get people that were more like Markiplier and not more like the vague, massive, wide category of gaming, right? Where like, because gaming content, right, isn't just playing games. You can also be talking about them, right? And the other thing is like a lot of this thing is like sort of like media, right? So if you watch this, right, you might get like film channels, right? Well, to be fair, these are film channels, but like, well, that actually kind of goes with what I'm saying because like, it's not related to the video; it's related to the vague general concept of entertainment, right? So this is entertainment criticism. 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 This is criticism of things that are involved in entertainment. You know, this is like an animation thing for like that kind of is a video essay, which this is a video essay. Like you get what like this has nothing to do with this, right? That's not how old YouTube used to be. You used to get videos related to what you were currently watching on this section. It also used to be down here, to be fair, too. I do kind of like it over here, though. I'm not gonna lie. I like it. I prefer it on the side, right? It used to be down like yeah, like in like the comments, something like that, right? Um, they keep changing it, and almost all the time the UI kind of gets worse in most ways and better in a couple, right? But this wouldn't be the content I would have on a video like this. Just like if I go to Dead Meat, I wouldn't get like a video like this, right? Because they are so vaguely generally like each other that the algorithm understood that someone who watches this is probably interested in more of this, right? And not this. Even if you are interested in both, right? You would get more of what you were watching and you would have to search up the new thing, right? And that's kind of the thing, right? The algorithm was made for people looking for what they wanted, not for YouTube telling you what you wanted, right? And that was kind of the thing. You had to look up content and you found it more, which is less engagement worthy, right? But it's more good content worthy because you know what you like and that makes it easier for you to find it. You use this, not this, right? But nowadays, you use this more than this. And that's a problem, and that's a change that happened right after the adpocalypse. Recommended things were more prominent, at, like giving you content you might not actually enjoy with like what you were watching once the adpocalypse happened, because it was more prone to get engagement rather than it was more like what you wanted. And that's like the reason why YouTube fell. It fell because the code and the algorithm behind it changed and it screwed everything up. So yeah, that's like kind of my point on like this thing. It's not that the content and all that is bad necessarily. It's that the reason it exists is a reason no one even wants to be true. So anyway, see ya.